Hello and welcome back to the Spiritual Successful Podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Zwagil, and I'm here today because I've had a series of interesting experiences I'd love to share with you guys. And really, for me, it's all about betting on yourself. Betting on yourself. You know, I read something in Bob Proctor's Born Rich the other day, and it basically said wealthy people don't feel comfortable about money because they have it. They have it because they feel comfortable about it. So I'm going to say that one more time. People don't feel comfortable about money because they have it. They have money because they feel comfortable about it. Now, that is a serious shift in the way most people think, because I think many times we believe I will feel okay once I have X amount of money in my bank account. I will feel like I can be more relaxed. I'll feel more at peace if these conditions are met. But truthfully, this is ass backwards. This is all in reverse. We have to feel good about it first. We got to feel comfortable about it first. Now, I remember this was a shift in me, and honestly, it was because I was beat down by life so many times that I almost resented success. It was to the point where I was at complete despair at trying and failing and trying and failing. And honestly, it was almost like a heartbreak over and over and over again. And in those times, I finally released it. I finally was like, you know what? If it doesn't happen, it's okay. I'm not going to wait to feel good about it for when it happens. I'm just going to decide to feel good about it right now. And if it happens, great. And if it doesn't, I'm going to be okay with where I'm at right now. And I'm going to continue to work towards it, but I'm not going to break my heart over it when it doesn't happen in my timeline. And, you know, so in other words, one of the reasons that they have money is because they developed that state of consciousness, which is a prosperity consciousness. The best way to develop a prosperity consciousness is to start seeing yourself in your mind's eye already in possession of the amount that you desire. So I'm going to give you guys an example. This is absolutely just spot on for what I'm trying to teach today. So last night, I was in Las Vegas, right? Today I'm in California. I'm in Laguna Beach. It's beautiful. The beach is, you know, crashing waves. The weather's absolutely perfect. And, you know, last night I was in Las Vegas. I said, you know, instead of driving all the way through tonight, let's just stay in Las Vegas. And you know what? I'm going to go get $5,000 out of the casino. I'm going to get a free room. I'm going to get free food. So this is my goal, right? I set a goal to myself and I said, and I even made a condition too. I said, if I find the roulette table that I want, if it has the right leverage, I want at least 100-1 odds, right? Or on the table, which is basically like a $5 minimum to a $500 maximum. Well, it ended up being 15 to 5,000, which means the odds are ever in my favor, right? So I said, if I find this magical table, it might not exist. If it doesn't exist, we're driving to California. If it exists, then I have a 97% chance of winning. And I will take a bet on that. I will take a risk that I can leave the hotel with all the money I want. I said, I need at least $5,000 to feel like okay about it. So in my mind, I was like, I need $5,000 out of the hotel and I want a free room. If I get a free room, I'll stay the night. If I don't, I'm going to keep driving, and I want free food too. So that was in my mind before I got to the hotel. Well, I got to the hotel. I went and visited the roulette tables. I actually went to two different hotels. The first one, Green Valley Ranch, Las Vegas, in Henderson, and I went there and I saw the table. It's $10 minimum, $500 max. Well, ended up being a little bit more than that, which was exciting. But so I sat down, I started placing my bets, and I'm doing Fibonacci sequence because it's what I know, it's what I'm comfortable with. It's part of my trading strategy, actually, when I'm trading Bitcoin. And basically, you're betting on numbers, you're betting on statistics, just statistically speaking. The odds will win. You will win eventually if you lose enough times. And that is so true to success. You know, Thomas Edison, right? He tried 10,000 times. He failed 10,000 times making a damn light bulb. Meanwhile, his, family, his friends, everyone's calling him crazy. They're like, what are you doing? You're trying to create something that's just impossible. And he said, I didn't fail. I just found 10,000 reasons or 10,000 ways it doesn't work. I didn't fail. I found 10,000 ways it didn't work. And so really the premise of this roulette strategy that I use is if you lose enough times, you're bound to win. But here's the secret. You have to have the guts to follow your strategy, even when every part of your being says, cut your losses and go. right? So I went to the table, I put my bet down, lost, put another bet, lost, put another bet, won when I'm up. All right. So I did that enough times. I doubled my money in less than an hour. I said, all right, that's pretty good. I just made 50% on my money in 30 minutes. I'm out. Like, I look at it like numbers. I'm not there just for having fun. It is fun, but I'm there because it's a business transaction. It's me versus the casino. Much like Dana White says, he says, the war is on. He talks about going into Red Rock Casino. Actually, I saw him yesterday in the elevator. So I got to meet him again. This is the second or third time I've met Dana White. So I got to see Dana and I was like, hey, Dana, just this side note, but I shook his hand. I said, Dana, the last time I met you in Dubai, I took a video, right? I took a video of I'm meeting Dana White, good stuff at the UFC fight. And I posted that video on Facebook and they banned my account. I said, Dana, good to see you. Bro, you got me banned on the internet. And he said, I am so sorry. But what I found out? He's bored on Facebook. I think I'm going to get my account back. But anyway, so why I bring that up is because it's a war against the casino. I learned that from Dana White, right? So I'm saying I'm coming in to make a withdrawal. I'm not coming in to make a deposit. That's a mindset. Most people say, this is how much I'm willing to risk. And if I don't get if I don't get what I want, then I have to cut my losses. I don't have that mindset. That's what we call in trading is a stop loss. I don't have a stop loss. I don't have stop loss mentality. Stop loss is a guaranteed loss. Absolutely not going to guarantee a loss. Absolutely not. So anyways, I double my money. I leave, and that's at Green Valley. I get back on the freeway. I head down to 215, and I go into Red Rock. I like staying at Red Rock because everybody knows me there, from valet to the butlers to the VIP people in there. And so I walk in, and I say, hey, Travis, my guy. I said, I'm coming in. I want a free room. I want free food, and I'm going to play roulette. And I'm coming to get some money. He said, on it, no problem. So he hooks everything up. Great. I sit down roulette, same thing. Got my strategy. I got my bankroll. My bankroll at this time is $1,000. Nothing crazy, just $1,000. I think if I put $1,000 in, I'm going to get at least 6,000 out. That's my goal. If I get 6,000 out, I'm 500 ahead, 5,000 ahead. And that's enough for me to continue on tomorrow morning on my trip to Laguna Beach. So this is my mindset going in, right? And so I'm going in, I'm making my first bet, and it's a $15 bet, and I'm using Fibonacci, right? The Fibonacci sequence. And I placed my first bet. I lost. Second bet, I lost. Okay, third, fourth, fifth, I lost. And now the chips are getting higher and higher, and I'm placing the same bet every time because you can't have too many variables. You can only have, when it comes to betting or roulette in this strategy, you can only have one variable, and that's the same bet every single time. So I get to the fifth, sixth bet, it hits. Fantastic. Go. So I do this a few more times. I'm making money. All right. I finally pause in the middle. I do some accounting. I see I'm up just a few $100s. I said, now this is typically, now I made 25% on my money, right? So I had 1,000. Now I'm at 1,250. Typically, if I'm up 25%, I'm out. However, I said, this is where the numbers start to turn. And I'm with my friend. I'm telling him all this stuff, and I'm predicting it as we go along. He's just mind blown. Like, why do you know this stuff? You are an alien. So anyways, so now I'm here. I'm gambling. And they say, now this is the time where I would either change my bet. I'm playing first 12s. Maybe I go to second 12s or third 12s. I got to change it up. I said, and the reason is because when you're up 25%, it's time to shift and change because the numbers are going to start going against you. I said, now I still can win if I play the same bet, but it means I'm going to go into a serious drawdown period of losses before it hits. He said, okay, well, let's see what happens. I said, okay. So I do my counting, everything's straight. I make my first bet, loss. Second bet, loss. Third, I get to my 11th straight loss. Now, the odds of losing another time, I would have a 1% chance of loss. So even though I ended up now with over $2,000 on one bet now, because remember, I was already up. Maybe it was 2,000. Maybe, I don't know. My math is a little crazy. I think it was 2,000. Yeah, I had to add more money. I got more money out of my wallet because I had to finish the sequence. And so I want to say I was at number 89 in the sequence. Now, Fibonacci is 1, 1, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89. That's how many bets I had in a row that lost. So now I'm on 89, and I'm telling him, all right, we got to get ready because if I have to go to 144 after this, I think we're going to be, pretty close to like $3,000 for one bet. And the table max is 5,000. So I can only go up to the table max before I lose. So anyway, at this point in time, I knew I had a 1% chance of losing. Now, at this point, we were starting to draw a crowd. People are coming around. They're like, what is this girl doing? She's doing the same thing every single time. And her emotions haven't changed. She's just betting like as if it's just paper, like it's nothing, just chips that mean nothing. So I'm stacking my chips up. I have this big thing going on, mostly hundreds now. And he rolls it. He spins the wheel, right? Here's the ball rolling around. I know I have a 99% chance of winning, but there's always that 1%, right? And instead of saying, all right, I lost, let's leave, I said, nah, we're going to go through it. Well, guess what? Lands on number 9, hits the first 12. I hit it. I triple my money. So I get out of there with $6,000. I made $2,500 at the other, casino. So now and I said, that's it. I've completed the sequence. I made my money. I achieved my goal. I got my $5,000 I wanted out of the deal, got my free room, my free food, and now I'm out. Now, why do I say that? It's because it starts in the mind before it can happen in the physical reality. Now, how many people do you know will go to a roulette table and not be scared after losing so many times in a row? In fact, we had other people sit down at the table. They placed their bet, they lost. They placed their bet, they lost, they left. That's it. I didn't win. I tried and I lost. So I'm out. How many times do we do that in our life? I tried, I failed, I'm out. That's the pattern. Well, successful people don't think like that. Right? So like I said, the best way to develop this prosperity consciousness is to start by seeing it yourself in your mind's eye. And the reason is this. This is the reason. The reason this is so is because since the subconscious mind can't distinguish between the actual possession of money and the mere visualization of it, you soon become very comfortable with the idea of money. And as a result, you start attracting it to yourself. And so essentially, I had tricked my subconscious mind, right? My beliefs, my habits, all that stuff in your subconscious mind, my emotions. I tricked my emotions into seeing these wins. I stayed true to my plan, even when my emotions were like, maybe not, doubt and fear started creeping in. Maybe we should go home. Maybe we should call it a day. Maybe this is as good as it gets. Maybe there's nothing more to it than this, right? Staying true to the vision, holding steadfast on the emotions. And that right then shifts that paradigm into prosperity. And so when you can succeed, right? When you can succeed at convincing your subconscious mind that you are wealthy now and that it feels good to be wealthy, your subconscious mind will automatically seek ways of making your imaginary feelings of wealth manifest themselves in a material form. I'm going to say that one more time. When you can succeed at convincing your subconscious mind that you are wealthy now, not when I have money, I'm wealthy. No, you are wealthy now, regardless of what your bank account says. You have to trick yourself into believing you are wealthy right now. Your subconscious mind doesn't know what's true or false. It doesn't know. It only knows that it must accept what you give it. It must accept what you give it. And the only gatekeeper to the subconscious mind is the conscious mind. Well, this is our logical thinking and reasoning mind. And the problem with that is logically, it doesn't make sense to do these things. In fact, to be successful, you have to be illogical. You have to do things that are crazy to most people. You have to be willing to be part of the 3% that think differently. Right. And even like when I'm studying the news in the morning, I get on the treadmill in the morning, I go to the gym. And I'm only there for 5 minutes on the treadmill. I'm not really there for the treadmill. I'm there because I'm watching the financial news and I'm watching the Bitcoin price. I'm watching NAS 100. I'm watching, what's happening with the Microsoft stocks and stuff. I want to know what's happening. And the reason I want to know what's happening is because I can predict with just the little information that I have what's going to happen next. And guess what? If the news is favorable about Bitcoin reaches an all-time high. Everybody needs to buy because it's going to go to the moon, right? We hear this over and over again. Social media accounts get fired off. You see the coin market cap, articles go out. You get all the alerts on your phone if you're all plugged into that. And the whole world is saying buy Bitcoin. Well, I know when the world is saying buy Bitcoin, it means get ready to sell. Because guess what? It's the retail traders versus Wall Street traders. And Wall Street's goal is to squeeze out the retailers, right? The 3%ers are trying to squeeze out the 97%ers. And so whatever the news is saying, I do the opposite. Whatever my school is teaching me, I'm doing the opposite. Whatever the government is saying, I'm doing the opposite. Whatever the institutions and the media are doing, I'm going to do the opposite because I don't want to be like the crowd. I don't want to be the 97%. I want to be 3%. So I trade like the Wall Street people, and I think like the people that are successful. And so you don't have to have resources to become successful. You could start literally with nothing and work your way into success. But here's the deal. Here's what stops us. Here's what messes us up. Fear. And so we have people all over the place that say, I want to have money. Well, if you want to have money, one thing you should never do is worry about whether you will get the money you desire or whether you will keep it. Like even Job said in the Bible, lo and behold, the thing I fear has come to visit upon me. Well, I guess so. Well, one thing they certainly mean by that is if we insist upon consistently worrying about not having enough money, or if we habitually worry about losing the money we do have, well, then we are sure to lose it. That's a guaranteed way of not having money, because at the emotional center of your being, that's the signal that you're putting out. And that's what the universe speaks. It doesn't care what you're saying. It cares what frequency you're emitting. And so just as surely as Job was afflicted by his many maladies that he had, so too shall we be afflicted by the lack or loss of money. Worrying about money is the most extremely counterproductive thing you can do, because again, like worry is literally just negative creation. And so if you really want to significantly increase the amount of money you are presently earning, the first thing you must do is learn to pay substantially less attention to what others around you are saying. You must strive to become much less susceptible to influences outside of yourself and much more inclined to trust the instincts and the feelings that lie within you. So instead of listening to the outside noise, start listening to yourself. Most people who want to accumulate money to live in the style that they choose, they typically talk themselves right out of it, because these are the same people who are most easily influenced by other people's opinions. They're the same people who are letting the writers of the media, the doom and gloom, fake news media outlets in the papers and social media. These are the people that are projecting upon us what we should be thinking and feeling. And if we're listening to the outside noise, we're not listening to ourselves. And inside ourselves is spiritual perfection. And inside ourselves is the energy that gives us the ability to attract everything we want. But if we aren't in control, if we're not in the driver's seat of that, well, guess what? All kinds of stuff is getting programmed in there and creating a habitual reflex mechanism that every time you are swiping your debit card, every time you got a bill that comes in the mail, that automatic trigger is kicking in and it's telling you, I'm almost out. Lack. I almost don't have enough. I'm getting close to the end. We start seeing evidence of it in our reality, in our physical reality, and we internalize it. So instead of that, you have to be a good finder. So even in the midst of chaos going on around you and negativity going on around you, and evidence in the physical world that's saying, no, I'm really broke, right? Despite all of that, you have to train yourself to see prosperity. So how you do that is you be grateful for the bad, be grateful for the good, be grateful for the bad. Because truthfully, all is one. That's the first law of mentalism. All is one and the same. The law of polarity says there's opposites, but they are connected by the same spectrum. I'll give you an example. Hot and cold. Well, what do I mean by that? It's all relative. Hot compared to what? Cold compared to what? Rich compared to what? Poor compared to what? Am I wealthy? Absolutely. By most people's standards, I am very wealthy. But in the elevator with Dana White, I am broke as a joke. Because if my bank account was his bank account, he'd be having a crisis, right? He'd be like, holy crap, I got to make some cuts. You know what I'm saying? When you're a billionaire, to be reduced to a millionaire, that is catastrophic, right? And so I think that's an important distinction, because compared to what? So when we get adapted to the income that we have, like let's say you are making $50,000 a year, but you really want to make $500,000 a year. Well, guess what? You're making $50,000 a year because you have thoughts of people that are making $50,000 a year. And if you want to make $500,000 a year, then you need to change your thoughts to somebody that's making $500,000 a year. Right? So you have to literally trick yourself into seeing the end, seeing the future. Now, quantum physics says all potentials already exist, right? It's literally, we live in a sea of infinite potentiality. All realities exist all at the same time. And it's only our observation of the reality is what we actually see in the physical world. Isn't that freaking crazy? The double slit experiment talks about this. It says atoms behave differently when they're observed versus when they're not observed. And when they're not observed, they're actually still observed because we live in a sea of consciousness. That's mind-blowing. What does that mean in layman's terms? It basically means this, that if it's all about perspective, our realities are perspective. Something bad that happens to you is also good if you find it. If you become a good finder and you look for good in all and you have gratitude for all, which, by the way, is the link between the finite mind of man and infinite intelligence. It is literally the frequency that you're emitting. If you find good in all, you're happy with what you have right now, but you're working towards that which you desire with expectation, with the expectation that it's coming and that it's on its way and that it's literally already yours. That is the secret to having all the wealth, prosperity, and everything that you could possibly want in your life. And this is some shift, really a big shift that I had to take within myself when I was broke, unhappy, unfulfilled, when I felt lost, all the things that I started from. And, every time I drive by a Pilot gas station, I think about my humble beginnings because I used to work in one of them at a Wendy's inside of a Pilot gas station. Not even the gas station, y'all. I was in the fast food restaurant in the gas station. I started there. I used to work at Pizza Hut. I used to, clean tables. I used to do all kinds of jobs that I knew were unfulfilling because I knew that I had to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. Most of us are afraid to even take action because of how far we think success is. But in Richard Price's book, U Squared, he talks about quantum leaps. You can have quantum leaps in your life. You can have drastically different results in your life if you're just not afraid to do things in a different way. Wallace D. Waddle says, it's not the neighborhood you grow up in. It's not the resources that you're blessed with. It's if you do things in a certain way. And the certain way is to first train your mind and then to see it in reality. And every single thing that has ever existed was first a thought. It was just an idea. It was first in existence in the spiritual plane only, in the mental plane only, and then it came into existence. This podcast mic that I'm speaking through was somebody's idea. The computer that I'm staring at right now, recording this podcast, was somebody's idea first. And because it was an idea first, it was brought into material form. And so if you want to be successful, if you want to have more money than you know what to do with in your life, then challenge yourself every single day, every single night. Write out a script of your life that you want. Write it out. I had my son the other day and he was on the phone and he was crying. And he said, I feel so lost. He just started his new job, right? He's like, I feel like I'm just slaving away at this job. He's like, it has no meaning. It's unfulfilling. Like, what am I doing with my life? Like, Mom, you're so successful. What are you doing that's so different? And I said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to get a piece of paper, write down a line down the middle of it. On one side of the paper, I want you to write your current reality as it exists right now. And on the other side of the paper, I want you to write out what exactly you want. What do you want? Most people are too scared to entertain what they want because they don't believe they can have it. So I want you to write down what you want in present tense. I'm so happy and grateful now that. And then write out your dream life. Rip that paper in half. Burn the side of the paper that is your current story. Don't return to it. Now, your mind is going to automatically be triggered into those past thoughts and feelings. It's going to happen. It's bound to happen. And while you can't change the past, you can change the associations to it. And so if you get that trigger that goes back into your old self, I want you to say thank you for that. Say thank you to your past because that is the character building exercise you needed to get to where you are right now, right? And so every day, every night, read that story of yourself. Train your mind to see the future that you want to have. Hold the vision of what you know your true purpose is, and never, ever, ever succumb to doubt, fear, or anything that makes you feel less than. It's going to feel like you're lying to yourself. But if you lie to yourself enough times, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference. So you might as well lie to yourself and tell yourself you're a billionaire, because guess what? That's the only possible way that it could ever happen. So thank you guys for hopping on today. I really appreciate each and every one of you. God bless, and we will see you on the next podcast.